pretty sure Donald Trump is not who Maduro was hoping would win.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Thank God. It's breathtaking to see where we are right now. So we did one segment about your observations, the implication of the next Trump presidency on conflicts around the world. I want to bring it now to Latin America, South American countries.
Let's talk Monroe Doctrine.
Let's talk Monroe Doctrine. Great point. So we've talked at length many times on Off Leash about the tragedy of Maduro's grip on Venezuela and his stolen election there. You have been an outspoken advocate for the Venezuelan people. They see you as a voice in the darkness that they are clinging to, hoping that Maduro can be taken out. Let's start with the implications of Donald Trump's election on Maduro's grip on power in Venezuela.
I'm pretty sure Donald Trump is not who Maduro was hoping would win.
Yeah.
And I am confident if Trump stays true to his campaign platform that the menace of socialist dictatorship existing in Venezuela is not something he's going to permit to continue for a long time. We did have a meeting with them in late 2020, about a month before the election, and the word was just leave with whoever you want, take as much as you want, but leave. And I don't even think that deal's on the table anymore. Now they just have to leave. Get the hell out. They have stolen the third election. Again, there was the Biden administration made a deal, took them off sanctions to cynically get the oil price down. And they allowed Chevron, Sergeant Oil, to start pumping oil. They're doing so, making money now, subsidizing the socialist government, which lost the election. Okay, we had a good election. Trump had a red wave here. Overall, 5, 6, 7 points. In Venezuela,
Vote. Yeah.
in Venezuela, they lost by 40 points. Okay, 70-30, a complete blowout. And Maduro just ignored it. I'm in charge, flew in some more Cuban security people, arrested people, beat up, killed some protesters.
Stranglehold on the military.
Clinging to
Right.
power.
Yep.
So they voted in socialism in '99 under Chavez, stole the election, 2 of them, and then this last one they had in July. This one being the most egregious. There's a legitimate opposition figure. Edmundo Gonzalez won the election, and the Maria Corina Machado is who won the primary, and the government banned her from running again. She is fearless. She's in her late 50s, civil engineer, mother of 3. Mark, she has more balls than all the men in Venezuela, I think. Okay? And I tip my hat
When
to
her
her.
life's at stake.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
She loves her country, and she wants freedom and rule of law in Venezuela. There's ways to get that and to convince the dictatorship that it is better for them to leave and leave under their own power than to have consequences delivered to them, which will make them put their continued rule at serious risk.
So in a way, finding a solution there, the sort of the bed's already made for Donald Trump because Maduro's continued rule is unacceptable.
Sure.
Correct.
And he is Cuba and Iran's direct ally. I mean, there are Iranians in the country supporting the security services. There are Cubans surrounding Maduro, keeping him in power. The Russians, really not so much, because I think the longer Venezuela stays wrecked, it's better for Putin because it's that much oil capacity that stays off the market.
Trump spoke often on the campaign trail about the absurdity of the Biden administration getting oil from Venezuela and not from under our own feet.
Yes, and he said he made the somewhat erroneous statement that it's safer in Caracas because they've shipped all their murderers. They have shipped. They've emptied their prisons, moved many of them to Colorado, to New York, to Boston, the Tren de Agua. The guys that are taking over certain apartment buildings and extorting the residents.
Colorado and elsewhere?
Yeah.
Yep.
They have done that. That is unacceptable. Those guys have to go either into a U.S. lockup or ideally into a Venezuelan lockup where they spend the rest of their miserable lives. Rule of law and order must be reestablished in Venezuela. And that's something that the Trump administration can accomplish very quickly.
Okay.
And we're going to key it up for them to make that possible.
Does part of it require a phone call to Chevron to say no
well,
more?
that's a simple paperwork thing to just immediately suspend their license.
Okay. So,
And maybe that gets done ahead of time with a phone call to say, probably better to suspend now
okay.
because Daddy's coming
Yeah.
and he's pissed.
Fair enough. But so sanctions back in place immediately, like that.
Yeah, we have
That
plenty
Biden
of
lifted.
plenty of crude that we can produce here.
Well, you know what's fascinating is when you and off-leash viewers, they know this well because you've discussed this at length. When you take a look at this, basically this railroad line from Venezuela, from the prisons of Venezuela, right straight up into the United States of America, you know, what more justification do you need to recognize that this circumstance is not acceptable? Gonzalez has left the country.
Yep.
Correct.
He's in Madrid. He was like the poor guy. He's in his 70s. I don't think he was in for that level of a fight, and they were threatening his family, and so he left. But Maria Karina, she's there, and she is resisting.
And that discussion that took place that said pack up your stuff and get the hell out, you know, which is now just get out. That's basically where Trump's going to pick up on this issue, right?
I won't speak for the man.
En esa misma entrevista, Eric Prince no habla solo de Venezuela, aunque sí hace particular énfasis en todo lo que ha ocurrido en nuestro país, todo lo relativo a la situación política de María Corina Machado, Edmundo González, etc. Pero también empezó a hablar un poco sobre lo que está pasando en el resto de la región, es decir, en el resto de América Latina. Alabó al presidente Nayib Bukele y también al presidente Javier Milei. Habló sobre cómo la administración Biden se había estado distanciando, había empujado lejos a gobiernos como el de El Salvador sencillamente por aplicar la ley y cómo todo esto va a repercutir en el resto de la región. Les voy a pasar el segmento en el que se refiere al gobierno de El Salvador y también al gobierno de Argentina.
So we've got this great contrast in the region. Bukele was one of the guys who sent his regards to Donald Trump, the president of El Salvador. Congratulations to the president-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump. And he did so posting on X with a picture of him sitting and shaking hands with Donald Trump. So Bukele, tell me why he would welcome the arrival of Donald Trump relative to having another Biden term.
The Biden State Department has been haranguing Bukele in El Salvador for being too tough on crime because he's locked up 60, 70,000 MS-13 gang members, right? And to join MS-13, you have to kill someone that's close to you, like a friend or a family member, to prove your commitment to the gang. And they self-identify because they have the face and neck tats. And so Bukele's...
You know who's a murderer.
Pretty obvious.
Because of their...
Self-identified.
Right.
And Bukele was elected on a law and order platform, and he said, enough of this. And they built in 7 months this place called the Sikot Prison. We covered it in a previous episode. And they have locked them up and made war on the gangs, and sure enough, it worked. And now El Salvador is a safer place to be than Prince William County, which is where the FBI crime lab is in Virginia. Imagine that. And the State Department was haranguing Bukele for being too tough and too law and order focused, which is kind of in keeping with why the Democrats lost this election, because they have this very skewed view on controlling criminal activity.
And so why is it in the interest of the United States of America to oppose Bukele's policies on imprisoning these gangsters? Right?
Exactly.
Simply because they're conflicted with law enforcement.
It speaks to the greater cancer that we have of government-funded NGOs, which exist in the murk of all these developing countries, actually reinforcing, subsidizing a lot of malign, antisocial, anti-capitalist behavior, perpetuating the problems that we all complain about. Cut off the money to all this NGO nonsense.
Argentina. Milei has been in office for less than a year now. Is his reform of government, stripping from 21 departments and agencies in their federal government down to 9, furloughing federal workers. Is that a model for Donald Trump?
He just fired their IRS. I mean, he dropped their pay, reduced the scope, and I mean, it's amazing. He is making good on his commitments to cut the size of government, which for them was unsustainable. Our government is absolutely unsustainable. When Musk talks about taking $2 trillion out of the federal budget, I think we can go deeper than that.
And by the way, that only gets us to pre-COVID spending, right?
Exactly.
I mean, how is that? How has this become the norm now? The new normal under Biden for almost 4 years now.
No one has been an adult and actually cut spending in 30-ish years.
And so
it was actually the Republican Congress under Newt Gingrich, which got us to a balanced budget.
Sure,
We need
1998.